Hello there, and many thanks for joining us in news on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. I'm David Alabi, and here are stories making the headlines. We begin our news bulletin with our Africa news package. But first, some sad news. Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for humanitarian work, has died aged 80. Mr. Annan was first black African to take up the role of the world's top diplomat, serving 2 terms from the year 1999 to 2006. He later served as the UN Special Envoy for Syria, leading efforts to find a peaceful solution to the conflict. Mr. Annan's tenure coincided with the Iraq War and the HIV/AIDS pandemic. May soul rest in peace. And we now move over to Algeria, where President Abdelaziz Bouteflika on Friday dismissed 2 generals. The presidency said a fresh upheaval in the OPEC oil producers' power structure ahead of a presidential election next year. The generals said Said B and Labi Chantouf had been in charge of the 1st and 2nd military regions of Algeria. A key gas supplier to Europe is divided into 6 military regions. A presidency statement did not give a reason for the dismissal, which came 2 months after Bouteflika sacked the North African country's powerful police chief, Abdelghani Hamil. He also fired in June Menab Nuba, who was in charge of the gendarmerie, a separate security unit controlled by the army. Now to some health matters. The ongoing deadly Ebola outbreak in eastern part of Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has particularly affected children, the UN Children's Fund has said. The outbreak in North Kivu province was declared on the 1st of August, and the UN Children's Agency reported that more than 50 youngsters have so far lost their parents to Ebola. UNICEF added that so far 2 children have died, while 6 others who are either infected by the disease or suspected to be are receiving treatment at 2 centers in the region. Dr. Gianfranco Rotiglano, UNICEF representative in the DRC, said, quote, "The children affected by the ongoing epidemic need special attention and care," end of quote. Now the rest of the news continues in just a moment right after this break. Don't go anywhere. Glad to have you back. You're still watching news on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. We now bring you stories making the headlines across Nigeria. Now first, the Nigerian acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, on Friday visited the scene of a collapsed 3-story shopping complex at Utako, Abuja. After inspecting rescue operations at the scene, the acting president described the incident as, quote, "very unfortunate." He condoled with relatives of those who might have died and those injured, and as well expressed optimism that those who are still trapped under the rubble would be rescued. The National Emergency Management Agency is here, FCT authorities are here, the minister himself is here, the federal government is here, the acting president said, and was accompanied to the scene by the Federal Capital Territory Ministry, Minister Malam Mohammed Bello, and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Rescue efforts were still on as at the time of filing this report. We now cross over to the nation's National Assembly, where arguments are still heated as lawmakers expect to approve for the budget for Nigeria's 2019 general elections. Over displeasure over clarity, the federal government is requesting a transfer of funds from budgeted 587 billion naira earmarked for capital projects to fund INEC's 189 billion naira election budget proposal. This, however, is not going down well with some lawmakers, part of a joint National Assembly committee expected to scrutinize the budget.
There is no further issue to raise as far as INEC is concerned. Only to remind this joint committee that from now to the 2019 general elections is 182 days, 20 hours, 17 minutes and 33 seconds.
The president has approved 189 billion. Therefore, should you wish to appropriate for the full 189 billion now, the president would have no objection. However, the president did say, and he did emphasize, that because of funding constraint, this should be done by way of virement, so as not to increase the overall size of the 2018 budget.
If we pass the budget of INEC now, and we do not pass the budget of all these other agencies, which are election-related budgets, I think we'll still have a problem.
We are not playing politics with 2019 budget or elections budget. For those of you who think that politics is being played, there is no politics in this thing. The issue is this: if this committee appropriates the 189 billion, the budget size of 2018 will shoot by that difference of 46.5 billion, which is the fear of Mr. President.
There's an appropriation committee. There are other committees that will look into those funding sources. So why must we restrict ourselves to those funding sources that you have so-called listed?
I do understand that by the provision of the powers conferred on the Parliament, that this budget is dead on arrival.
We are a committee on INEC. We are not the committee on appropriation. I think the issue before us is whether or not the budget of 189 billion submitted by INEC is worthy of approval.
Minister of Budget and Planning, you are holding a document which you said is from that document that we are going to source the money for funding of INEC. And to all of us, I don't know whether any of us has that document and the project. Therefore, if we no, what I'm saying, if it is not so, that's why I said it's complicated now.
We can tell Mr. President that we want the entire amount of money to be sourced from the 2018 budget, in view of the fact that by the time the budget will come, the 2019 budget will come, elections, issues are in the air.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Independent National Electoral Commission says it will not postpone the 2019 general elections because of the delay in the passage of the budget. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu made the clarifications while fielding questions from State House correspondents on Friday in Abuja. He said that there was no provision under the law for postponement of elections. Quote, "The date is formed and fixed, February 16, 2019. We issued a timetable way in advance for the very first time in the history of our nation. Citizens of Nigeria know when elections will take place 1 year in advance. It has never happened before." End of quote. Now, a prominent member of the Parliamentary Support Group, a body of the All Progressives Congress members in the National Assembly loyal to President Muhammadu Buhari, Senator Ovie Omo-Agege, has said the APC caucus is insisting on the reconvening of the National Assembly. Senator Omo-Agege also pointed out that the APC caucus was also against the alleged proposal for a joint session of the Senate and House of Representatives whenever President of the Senate, Saraki, and Yakubu Dogara reconvened the National Assembly. The lawmaker insisted that Senator Bukola Saraki must not remain Senate President after his defection from the APC to the PDP. APC senators had met with the national chairman of the ruling party, Adams Oshiomhole, during the week on the matter. And we now look at the Catholic priest and child abuse. On Tuesday, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made public on one of the broadest ever investigation into Catholic clerical sex abuse of minors. The news has sparked off reactions across the globe, raising more questions on the celibacy of the priesthood and the supposed silence of the Pope on the matter. Back in Nigeria, Plus TV Africa's Amaka Okoye spoke to the Director, Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Lagos. Here's the report.
3 weeks ago, Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, former Archbishop of Washington, D.C., and a prominent figure in the United States Catholic Church, stepped down amidst accusation of sexual abuse of children. The 88-year-old has been at the center of a growing scandal within the church over allegations of abuse of minors and adult men, an accusation he denies strongly. While the Catholic Church still struggles to come to terms with the scandals that has rocked it lately, a grand jury in Pennsylvania has on Tuesday released a chilling report with evidences accusing at least 300 priests of abusing up to 1,000 children in 6 states out of the 8 states. The Pennsylvania grand jury report lands as the sex abuse scandal in the church has reached a new stage. What implication does it have, and how does the church respond to it? With a population of more than 17 million Catholics in Nigeria, a deeply religious country, one wonders how all of this will play out.
It's nothing new, really, what they have been saying. I'm not in any way justifying that is sexual abuse. Neither am I in support of it. The church never sends any priest to be involved in that. We have disciplinary measures taken by the church to make sure that people are disciplined if they are involved in these offenses, either in the US, Nigeria, Calabar, Timbuktu, anywhere you are.
The Catholic Church has constantly been plagued with sexual scandals, prompting people to call for more sanctions on priests found guilty. Even though there are allegations that the acts of the canonical trial hides priests found guilty from public accountability, the Church says the guilty face the law irrespective of where it occurs.
They will deal with them. They don't see, you are the priest, yes, you are the priest, but they don't see you more than a priest. Well, the law takes its course. The church is open. The church is not in any way cloaking itself with pride. The Pope himself is very clear. Mea culpa, that is, we are sorry.
Perhaps stiffer sanctions and conditions need to be carried out as regards the criteria to be a priest, and also the constant supervision and vigilance of the people of the cloak. For Plus TV Africa, Amaka Okoye.
When we return right after this break, we'll bring you the stories making the headlines across the international front. Don't go anywhere. And on the foreign scene, former cricketer Imran Khan has been sworn in as the new Prime Minister of Pakistan, more than 2 decades after he entered politics. He was elected Prime Minister in a vote at the country's National Assembly on Friday. His PTI party won the most seats in July's elections, and Mr. Khan has become Prime Minister with the help of small parties. On Saturday morning, Mr. Khan was tearful and smiled as he stumbled over some of the words of his oath, led by the country's President Mamoon Hussain. Members of the 1992 Cricket World Cup winning team that Mr. Khan captained to victory watched the ceremony alongside other senior PTI figures and military officials. We now cross over to India, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi flew over the worst floods in a century to hit Kerala on Saturday, surveying the damage which has killed 164 people and forced 200,000 into relief camps. During the current monsoon, Kerala has been hit with over a third more rain than average, according to India's weather office. Further heavy rainfall has been forecast for most parts of the state on Saturday, and authorities said they plan to implement controlled releases of water from dams to manage flows and minimize damage. Rains are expected to subside to light to moderate levels on Sunday, August 19th. The southwestern coastal state's chief minister, Pinarayi Vijayan, is seeking military reinforcement to boost rescue efforts. 4 U.S. senators on Friday urged the Army to detail the steps it has taken to safeguard children from lead poisoning, citing a Reuters investigation into hazards on military bases. Quote, "We write to you today concerned about recent reports of lead poisoning at a number of Army," the senators wrote. "The health and safety of our servicemen and their families are the utmost importance," end of quote. The letter, written by Democratic Senators Tim Kaine and Mark Warner of Virginia, along with Republican Senators David Perdue and Johnson Isakson of Georgia, came a day after Reuters reported that more than 1,000 young children tested at military clinics had elevated lead levels between the years 2011 and 2016. It's now time to talk business as we bring you the latest updates from the Nigerian scene. And in business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria has asked lenders to submit bids for their Chinese yuan in its second auction of the currency after agreed swap with the People's Bank of China in May. But importers say they're yet to assess the yuan weeks after the Apex Bank commenced the sale of the currency. The CBN flagged off its intervention in the sale of foreign exchange in the yuan on the 20th of July, pursuant to the bilateral currency swap agreement signed with the People's Bank of China on the 27th of April, that's this year. The CBN signed a $2.5 billion three-year currency swap deal with Beijing in May to facilitate trade between the two countries and cut reliance on the dollar. And now a global data and analytics company, Global Data, in its new report say international oil companies, IOCs, and other operators are expected to spend a total of $40.7 billion on the development of a planned project and $117.1 billion on key announced projects in Nigeria and other sub-Saharan African countries between the years 2018 and 2025. According to the first half of this year production and capital expenditure outlook for key planned upstream projects in sub-Saharan Africa report, there are 20 planned projects with identified development plans and 44 early-stage announced projects undergoing conceptual studies expected to get approval for development. The report said Nigeria topped the list with 10 planned oil and gas projects expected to start operations between the years 2018 and 2025, followed by Mozambique with 2 projects in terms of announced projects. Nigeria led with 13 projects, followed by Angola with 5 projects. Now, Kunle Folari, chairman of the Nigerian Ports Consultative Council, has said Nigeria is in control of 70% of cargo traffic of West and Central Africa. According to him, latest data show that traffic into Nigeria was now over 5,307 ships per annum in real time. He said over 85% of all the goods and services that entered the country came through the seaport with a current aggregate value exceeding $15 billion a year through normal imports. He also noted that Nigeria imports over 2 million tons of non-oil cargo yearly, further proving that the maritime sector's performance is indeed a major contributor to the economy. In his opinion, given the gap that the maritime sector feels, it should also be given attention when discussing port cost and port charges. And now we take a flip to the lighter side of life as we bring you a roundup of entertainment and sports news. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. And in entertainment news, the Nigerian Writers and Publishers met with Global Storymakers Chief Innovation Officer Sherry Sanchino to find ways of writing, publishing and selling stories across the world. Malam Denja Abdullahi, president of the Association of Nigerian Authors, ANA, said the meeting was, quote, largely exploratory to see how there could be a collaboration between Nigerian writers, artists, illustrators and publishers, with Sanchino's organization towards developing a model that will enable the writing and publishing of stories for markets across the world. End of quote. According to reports, Sanchino described Nigeria as a very progressive country with citizens who care about having children learn in mother tongue and other languages. Meanwhile, metal music star Joe Janus has passed away after a long battle with mental illness. On Tuesday, the lead singer of the metal music group Huntress committed suicide outside Portland, Oregon, after a battle with bipolar and schizoaffective disorder. The music band had released a public announcement through their Facebook handle saying, quote, It is with a crushed heart that we announce the death of Jill Janus, who passed away on Tuesday, who was a long-time sufferer of mental illness. She took her own life, end of quote. The songstress on different occasions stated that she also struggled with suicidal thoughts. She was diagnosed with cancer of the uterus. She will be truly remembered for her numerous musical projects relating with young people and people living with mental illness. The President Acting Guild of Nigeria, AGN, Emeka Rawlers, during the week took stock of his administration's 1 year in office, declaring that they have succeeded in charting a new course for the once troubled guild. He emerged the head of the interim government after he defeated Emeka Ike at an election that was organized by the Guild's Congress in Enugu a year ago. AGN celebrates 1 year in office of Government of National Unity before the foundation was saddled with responsibility of governance. Nollywood is no longer about appearing on the scene, as it's now about what comes out to you as an actor, even after many years of appearances. American Rawlers said his administration is pursuing world best standards as proud affiliates of the Federation of International Actors, FIA. We now cross over to South Africa. Johannesburg's Mnet contestant of the latest season of Survivor SA, Dr. Tevin Naidu, has come under heavy criticism for his comment he made about molestation, resulting in the network pulling him out of marketing material for The Bachelor. Tevin got into the back record after he shared a picture on Instagram with the caption, quote, "Find yourself someone who looks at you the way I look at you, like a molester who found his next victim," end of quote. In a statement issued by Mnet spokesman Lani Lombard, he said the channel did not condone abuse and would no longer be working with Tevin in its promotional campaigns. That's it on entertainment news. The very best in sports comes right after this. And in sports news, the latest result in tennis, world number 2 Roger Federer beat fellow Swiss Dan Wawrinka 6-7, 7-6, 6-2 to reach the semi-finals of the Cincinnati Masters on Friday. Although the match was interrupted for 21 minutes due to a lightning storm, Federer was back on the court to secure his 23rd victory in 26 minutes. Meetings with Wawrinka, the 37-year-old now faced Belgian David Goffin in the final four after he defeated Argentine Juan Martín del Potro. Elsewhere, former world number 1 Novak Djokovic also won his match to set up a semi-final clash with Marin Cilic of Croatia. The Serb defeated Canadian Milos Raonic 7-5, 4-6, 6-3. Earlier in the day on Friday, Djokovic, a 5-time finalist in Cincinnati, is aiming to lift the trophy for the first time at this event. And in the women's event, world number 1 Simona Halep recovered from 4-1 down in the opening set to beat Lysia Surenko of Ukraine 6-4, 6-1 on Friday. She will be facing rising star 20-year-old Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus, who upset Madison Keys of the United States 6-3, 6-4, and two-time Wimbledon champion Petra Kvitova also reached the final four with victory over Belgian Elise Mertens 7-5, 5-7, 6-3. The Czech will now face Dutchwoman Kiki Bertens. And there you have it. Sports wraps our news roundup of events at this hour. Many thanks for watching. I'm David Alabi. But please do remember, for more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more news making the stories across Africa and the rest of the world. Do join us again.